Okay, hi, it's Michael Crawford again. Back doing some lens comparisons and also full frame to APS-C comparison. So, what am I doing? Well, I'm looking at, I've got my Sony a6000 with the Carl Zeiss 35 2.8 on it. I've got my Nikon D800E with the Sigma 35mm 1.4 DG lens on it, which I've tested before and I know is extremely sharp. Also got my old trusty 35mm Nikon AF lens. This is just the old manual screw type lens, so it's got a little screw cam there that spins around and is worked by an autofocus motor inside the camera. These are, pretty cheap. This isn't even the D version. This is actually the older one, just the AF version, F2. Much smaller and lighter than the Sigma, as you can see. Comparison. Look at the size difference. Huge difference. Yeah, this rig here is really heavy. We're looking at, close to 1 kilo for the camera and about 700 grams, I think, for this lens. So you're looking at, 1.5 plus kilos there. For the Sony is the other end of the scale here. Super lightweight, super lightweight. The camera, I think, is less than 400 grams, and this lens is probably about 400 grams, probably 300 grams, I don't know. The whole thing probably weighs less than that Sigma lens. Yeah, it's probably close to this in weight, this whole camera, even with this base plate on it. So yeah, I shot all the lenses at f2.8 to make it a fair game. Because that's the widest aperture of the Sony lens. So the other two are stepped down a bit from there. One's an f2 and the other one's 1.4 obviously. So obviously they should be really super sharp, but the Carl Zeiss is meant to be legendary and it's meant to be used wide open, That's the whole idea of it. That's why we're paying big bucks for a little tiny lens. Yeah, that Carl Zeiss lens costs as much as that Sigma lens. So, let's get into it. Let's have a look in Lightroom and see what's going on. Okay guys, so what I've got here is I have all three images. On the far left I've got the 35mm 1.4 Sigma lens. Then I have the Nikon 35mm f2 lens. Then I have the Sony 35mm 2.8 lens. All these shots were taken at f2.8. I haven't done, these are all the raw images. I haven't done any processing in Lightroom or anything. This is just straight as they were raw converted. So let's have a look. So what I've done here, naturally with the Sony picture, I had to take a step back in order to get a similar framing, because that will be a 50mm equivalent on a Sony. But looking at it, you can see how even being a 50mm, it gives you the same sort of compression as the other 35s. Yeah. So having a quick look here, I'm just going to open this up a little bit more, get a little bit bigger view on my screen. The bokeh in them all is quite good. They're actually very, very similar images, like color wise and exposure wise, and everything is really close. I mean, I don't know, you probably can't see as well as I can because this is going through the video codec on my computer. and then it's getting converted again in YouTube, so you're probably losing a fair bit. But I can see that the colour, the Sony one, the skin tone is a little bit lighter, but that could just be the setting on the camera. Now, all very similar. I'm just looking for any differences here, so what I'm going to zoom in now. So first up we'll have this one. Okay. So first up we've got the two Nikon mount lenses. So here we have this is the 1.4 on the left, and the f2 AF lens, the older lens and much smaller lens, on the right. Now looking at them, you can see the fine detail is a little bit more evident in the 1.4. Now this is really magnified, let's not forget. Okay, we're zooming right in here. Looking at the eye, you can see the hair is just a little bit cleaner. But really, to be honest, there's not a lot in it. There is not a lot. If you don't need the extra, the f1.4 aperture speed, or the bokeh that comes with that aperture, which is nice, of course, if you're doing people shots and wanting to isolate your subject. If you don't need that, and you can get away with the f2, which still will give you, good subject isolation, this lens, it's very good. And I think it's a little known secret that the Nikon 35, the older Nikon 35, the AF and the AFD are really good lenses, which is actually why I've still got a copy. It's one of those lenses that I've hanged on to. I haven't gotten rid of that one because it's very nice. But yeah, obviously that Sigma is just really, really sharp. I'm going to compare now the 1.4 to the Sony, and straight up, looking at them like that, there's very little difference. But when we zoom in, my son, he's dribbling, he's a little dribbler. I did use the eye autofocus on the Sony, which is usually pretty good. Now, of course, these will sharpen up more, but just looking at that Sony, and I took 4 shots with each lens, and then I've chosen the sharpest one. So these are actually the sharpest ones. Now, yeah, you can really see the tonal difference looking at the magnified close up like this, can't you? And also you can see just how softer that Sony sensor is. It's sharp. We're really magnifying here, but it's a bit disappointing that it's not as sharp as all that. It's off the Sigma, that's for sure. If you want razor sharp pictures, you're definitely going to be going full frame with a good quality prime, just like the Sigma. If you are just after, photos of people, now often you don't want it too razor sharp when you're taking a photo of a person. For instance, the imperfections like the pores in the skin and that, you don't want them amplified when you're doing portrait photography, really. And often you'll get away with a lens that is, you want a sharp lens obviously, but you don't want it to be so razor sharp that everything's just in your face. But I have to say that Sigma lens is just really nice. you don't realize how good it is really until you put it up against some other good lenses, and this Sony lens is a good lens, but obviously it's got nothing on the Sigma. You know, I know it's a unfair comparison here, that's for sure. You know, we've got an APS-C camera, you know, a few generations old now. It's got the you know, the AA filters. It's you know, it's definitely not, you know, and it's up against the D800E, which is one of the finest sensors going. You know, even today, even years and years after its release, it's still really top notch, one of the best sensors you can use. There's no doubt about that. But you can see there's a difference. There is definitely a difference. Now, of course, I could sharpen these up. Let's go into the develop module and let's have a look here. Okay, so coming back into Lightroom and looking at the photos with some adjustments, I've got the Sigma 1.4 on the left and the Sony 2.8 on the right. Both of them shot at 2.8. Now you can see that the Sony lens is still softer, but it's cleaned up very nicely. I mean, like for a little package, you know, that's like this, you're getting some beautiful results. Really, really beautiful results. Nothing wrong with that. The Sigma is just ridiculously sharp. There's no other way to put it. It's really sharp. Really, 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 really sharp. So, if you're after a super sharp lens and you don't mind carrying a bit of weight, then yeah, you can go for this system here, which weighs a frickin' ton. You know, walk around all day with that and you'll know what you're doing. Alright, you'll be able to feel the muscles in your arms working. Okay, you got a super tough camera body, fantastic optics with the Sigma lens there, or you could take this little tiny package here, which is going to give you beautiful, beautiful results. And believe me, I've shot models and everything with this camera and been very happy with the results. Superb results. And of course, the alternative to your big fat Sigma lens is this little Nikon lens if you're a Nikon user. Really recommend this guy. This is an f2 35mm, the old f2 screw drive lens, so you need an autofocusing body, but really good. Fantastic optics too. Not far off the Sigma. Not far off, and probably half the weight or maybe even less. Okay, so that's it for this review. So to sum it up, Sigma lens, full frame body, outstanding results. APS-C camera with top of the range APS-C lens too. Let's not forget, this is a premium APS-C lens. This is actually a full frame lens, and it's a premium lens in the Sony range. This is a 2.8 35mm Carl Zeiss, and it's good. It's a very good lens, but it's actually not a good match for this Sigma lens here. So that's it, guys. Have a good day, and I'll catch you next time.